Ethan Ward had always believed space was too big for anyone to feel lonely. But as the transport shuttle glided toward the massive orbiting station, he felt an unusual weight in his chest. The station, named Aurora's Edge, was not just any outpost. It was a place where humans and alien species worked side by side. It was supposed to be a beacon of cooperation. But Ethan knew the truth. Most species still distrusted each other, and especially humans. The shuttle's window stretched wide, showing the star burning bright below. Aurora's Edge floated like a crown of silver metal, with long arms spinning for artificial gravity. Dozens of alien ships moved in and out of docking bays. Some were sleek, some sharp, some shaped like nothing Earth would ever design. Ethan pressed his hand against the glass. He had dreamed of this moment, of working beyond Earth where humanity was still a newcomer. The shuttle's speaker crackled. Final approach. All crew prepare for disembark. Ethan adjusted his jacket. He was not a soldier, not an explorer with weapons and armor. He was an engineer, a human specialist in power systems. His job was to fix broken reactors, damaged grids, and malfunctioning energy converters. It was simple work compared to fighting wars or negotiating treaties, but still vital. As he stepped off the shuttle into the docking bay, he noticed the looks. Not all, but some aliens glanced his way with visible unease. Humans had a reputation, stubborn, unpredictable, and far too emotional. In some alien cultures, that made them dangerous. Ethan tried to ignore the stares, keeping his step steady. A tall figure waited at the end of the platform. She was not human. Her skin carried a faint glow like pale silver touched by moonlight. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, almond-shaped and deep violet, with a soft shimmer that seemed to ripple. Her hair, or what looked like hair, flowed like strands of liquid crystal. She wore a uniform marked with the station's emblem, but it was cut differently, fitted for her species. Ethan already knew who she was. He had read her file during the trip. Liara Varen, a member of the Sereth, a telepathic species. Engineer Ward, she said, her voice calm like water flowing. You will be assigned with me on power systems maintenance. I am Liara. Ethan gave a polite nod. Glad to meet you. I hear the Sereth are very skilled. Her eyes flickered, and Ethan suddenly felt the strangest sensation, as if his thoughts had become lighter, as if someone brushed against the surface of his mind. He stiffened. Do not be alarmed, Liara said smoothly. It is natural for my kind to sense surface thoughts when we focus. I will not intrude deeper without cause. Ethan forced a smile, though his cheeks warmed. Right, well, I'll try not to think too loudly then. She tilted her head, studying him. Your mind already hums with noise. Humans are different. That was not news to Ethan. He had read the reports. Many species found human minds messy, chaotic, and unshielded. Most beings learned to guard their thoughts, but humans apparently could not. It made them both fascinating and irritating to telepathic races. As they walked through the corridor, Ethan tried to keep his mind blank, but that was impossible. His thoughts raced. She can read my mind. Don't think anything stupid. Don't imagine anything embarrassing. Liara's steps faltered just slightly. A tiny smile touched her lips. Ethan groaned under his breath. You heard that, didn't you? I felt it, she admitted softly. Humans resist focus, but their surface thoughts spill out in vivid streams. Yours especially. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Great. First day on the job, and I'm broadcasting nonsense. The station's corridors stretched long, filled with alien workers of every size and shape. Some floated in anti-gravity harnesses. Others carried tools Ethan had never seen before. Voices echoed in dozens of languages, but translators hummed in everyone's ears. Liara led him into a control room. Screens glowed with energy readings, schematics, and power flow charts. Ethan's nerves settled. Machines never judged him. He belonged here. You will assist with the lower deck's grid calibration, Liara said, motioning to a console. Several reactors have shown unstable output. I will monitor readings while you make adjustments. Got it, Ethan said, rolling up his sleeves. His hands moved across controls with confidence. This was his language. He checked connections, balanced input-output ratios, and rerouted faulty circuits. Liara watched silently, her violet eyes unblinking. Ethan tried not to notice, but his mind betrayed him again. Does she ever blink? Her eyes looked like stars in a glass of water. Why am I noticing this? Stop. Focus on the panel. A soft sound escaped Liara, halfway between a sigh and a chuckle. Ethan froze. What? Your thoughts are colorful, unshielded. You describe what you see in strange ways. No other species does this. Ethan shook his head. I wasn't trying to describe anything. That is what makes it curious, she replied. You do not filter before you think. You imagine without control. Ethan muttered. Yeah, welcome to the human brain. It's a mess up there. Her lips curved in the faintest smile again. Hours passed. They repaired multiple grid sectors, moving together between consoles and tunnels. At first, Ethan worried Liara would see too much, but she never mocked him. She simply observed, curious. Sometimes she even seemed amused. During a break, they sat in the observation deck. Beyond the glass stretched endless space with stars glittering like spilled diamonds. Ethan leaned back, sipping water from a metal flask. He tried to keep his mind calm, but exhaustion loosened his thoughts. Space is beautiful. If I weren't so tired, I'd write poetry about it. Not that I'm any good. She probably hears this. Yep, she's hearing it right now. Great. Now she knows I want to write poetry. Liara turned her head, her eyes catching the starlight. You think in ways unlike others. Most minds I touch are structured, predictable. Yours wanders. It is not unpleasant. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Not unpleasant? That's the nicest way anyone's ever described my brain. She tilted her head again, studying him. Do you know why other species avoid humans? Plenty of reasons, Ethan said. We're new. We're loud. We do things no one expects. That is part of it. But the deeper reason is this. Your minds cannot be controlled. Not fully. Even when I try, I cannot weave your thoughts the way I do with others. They scatter, twist, and resist. To some, this is dangerous. To me, her voice softened. It is fascinating. Ethan felt a chill. He realized then that Liara wasn't just listening, she was drawn in. Fascinating, huh? He said lightly, though his heart beat faster. Yes, and perhaps dangerous, but perhaps valuable. Her eyes lingered on him a moment longer, then she looked back at the stars. Ethan leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. He had expected suspicion, maybe even cold professionalism. Instead, he found something stranger. Curiosity. He didn't know what this partnership would lead to. But he knew one thing for certain. Liara was not like anyone else he had met. And she was beginning to see humans in a way no alien ever had. That night, alone in his quarters, Ethan lay on his bunk staring at the ceiling. He tried not to think about Liara, but of course he failed. She probably knows I'm thinking about her right now. Oh, perfect. Great job, brain. Somewhere across the station, Liara closed her eyes in meditation. And yes, faintly, like a whisper on the wind, she felt his thoughts drifting toward her. And for reasons she did not yet understand, she did not push them away. The following days moved quickly for Ethan. Aurora's Edge was larger than he had ever imagined, with hundreds of corridors, docking bays, and laboratories spread across its spinning arms. Each section had its own power lines, converters, and fail-safe systems. That meant one thing: endless work for an engineer. For Ethan, work was comfortable. Wires, circuits, and reactors didn't judge him. They broke, and he fixed them. But there was one thing he couldn't fix: the fact that his alien partner could hear his every stray thought. Liara never mocked him. She never showed annoyance. But every so often, when his mind slipped and he thought something foolish, he saw it, the corner of her lips curving in the faintest smile, or her violet eyes softening with a shimmer of amusement. It drove him crazy. Morning in the grid room, Ethan arrived early to the grid control chamber. The room smelled faintly of ozone, with panels humming and glowing blue. He stretched, preparing for a long day. All right, Ethan, he told himself silently. No dumb thoughts today. Just focus. Don't think about her eyes or her voice or the way she... The door opened. Liara entered, her steps light and graceful. Ethan stiffened. Too late. Good morning, she said. Morning, Ethan answered quickly, turning to the panel. His fingers danced across the controls, pretending to be absorbed. Her head tilted slightly. You attempted to silence your thoughts again. He sighed. And you heard that, huh? I always hear when you try too hard, she said softly. It makes the noise louder, not quieter. Ethan groaned, covering his face with one hand. I'm doomed. This time she laughed quietly. A sound like crystal wind chimes. A diplomatic dinner. That evening, Ethan and Liara were called to attend a diplomatic dinner. Aurora's Edge often hosted gatherings between species to build trust and trade knowledge. Ethan had never been part of such events before. The dining hall was vast, with a ceiling of transparent glass that revealed the stars above. Tables floated slightly off the ground, adjusted for the comfort of species who couldn't sit in chairs. Food of every color and texture was displayed, glowing fruit, bubbling liquids, and roasted meats that shimmered oddly under the lights. Ethan sat stiffly beside Liara. Around them, ambassadors from reptilian, insectoid, and crystalline species conversed in calm voices. Ethan forced a polite smile. "All right, keep it together. Don't say anything dumb. Don't imagine anything dumb." Across the table, a tall insectoid ambassador clicked his mandibles as he ate something wriggling. Ethan's mind betrayed him instantly. "If that thing jumps off his plate, I'm out of here." Liara's shoulders shook, though her face stayed serene. Ethan glared sideways at her. "Don't you dare laugh." Her violet eyes sparkled with suppressed humor. Moments later, a reptilian diplomat began speaking proudly of his species' hunting traditions. His forked tongue flicked between words. Ethan's mind raced again. I wonder if he eats his enemies raw, or if he prefers space barbecue. Liara pressed her lips tightly, as if fighting to keep from laughing. When the crystalline ambassador began humming instead of speaking, Ethan thought helplessly, "Great, dinner and a concert. Do I clap when it's over?" This time Liara's laugh escaped, soft but unmistakable. Several diplomats turned their heads. Liara cleared her throat quickly, covering her mouth. Ethan whispered from the corner of his mouth, "You're going to get us in trouble." "You are going to get us in trouble," she whispered back. "Your thoughts are louder than any speech here." After dinner later, as they walked back to the engineering wing, Ethan shook his head. "You nearly burst out laughing in front of half the galaxy's leaders." "You should blame yourself," Liara replied calmly. "Your imagination creates pictures I cannot ignore. I wasn't trying to entertain you. That is why it is irresistible," she admitted. Her eyes shone faintly in the corridor lights. "Your mind does not build walls. It plays even when you resist. It pulls me in." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "So, you like it?" Liara paused, considering. "I do not yet know the human word, but yes. I desire more of it." Her honesty made Ethan's chest tighten. He turned away, muttering, "That's weird, perhaps," she said. "But it is true. Trouble in the power core." The next day, alarms rang across Aurora's Edge. The power core, the massive reactor at the heart of the station, was fluctuating wildly. If it failed, entire sections could lose life support. Ethan and Liara ran through the humming corridors, past technicians shouting in a dozen languages. The core chamber loomed ahead, a sphere of blinding energy surrounded by coils and stabilizers. "Output is spiking beyond limits," Liara read from the console. "Containment shields will collapse if this continues." Ethan studied the readings. "It's the coolant regulators. They're out of sync. We need to recalibrate manually." The problem, the regulators were across a narrow maintenance bridge. With the core blazing dangerously below. "I'll go," Ethan said, grabbing his toolkit. Liara reached out, touching his arm. "It is unstable. One mistake and you will be lost," he smirked. "Relax. Humans are good at crawling into dangerous places." She stared at him, sensing his determination. Finally, she nodded. "I will stay linked to your thoughts. If you falter, I will know." Ethan hurried across the bridge, heat washing over him. His mind raced with calculations. "Okay, left valve first, then the pressure release, then recalibrate sequence. Don't trip. Don't think about falling. Don't imagine the core exploding like fireworks." Behind him, Liara winced faintly. "Your imagination is distracting. Sorry," he shouted over the roar. "It's how I work." His hands moved quickly, tightening bolts, resetting calibrations. Sweat ran down his neck. The regulator hissed, then steadied, almost there. Just one more. The bridge shook violently. Ethan stumbled, nearly dropping his tool. Panic spiked in his chest. "I'm going to fall." "No!" Liara's voice cut into his thoughts. It wasn't just sound. It was inside him. Calm, steady, firm. "You will not fall. Focus." Her presence steadied him like an anchor. His heart slowed, his hands firmed. He locked the last sequence into place. The core's furious glow settled into a calm pulse. Cheers echoed from the technicians nearby. Systems stabilized across the station. Ethan sagged against the railing, breathing hard. You did it, Liara said softly, her voice echoing inside his head. We did it, Ethan corrected. Quiet conversation later. After the crisis passed, Ethan and Liara sat in a maintenance lounge. He was exhausted, his uniform damp with sweat. She sat beside him, serene as ever, though her violet eyes studied him with unusual intensity. You frightened me, she admitted. When you nearly fell, Ethan chuckled weakly. I frighten myself sometimes, but then you focused. Your mind is chaotic, but in crisis it sharpens. I felt it. Ethan nodded slowly. That's kind of how humans are. We're messy most of the time, but when it counts, we pull it together. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, I desire to remain linked with you more often. Ethan blinked. Linked, you mean? In my head? All the time? Yes, your thoughts feed me. They give me energy I did not know I lacked, Ethan swallowed. The idea of someone always listening in on his brain was terrifying. But part of him, an unguarded, reckless part, was curious too. Why me? He asked. There are plenty of humans here. You are the first who does not push me away, she said. The first who lets me see without hatred. That matters, her words settled heavily in the air. Ethan looked away, staring at the glowing panels. She reads my dirty thoughts. And she desires them, he thought helplessly. And for the first time he realized it wasn't just embarrassing. It was dangerous. The station felt different after the power core incident. Ethan noticed how the technicians greeted him with more respect now, though some still looked at him with suspicion. He was the human who had risked falling into the heart of the core to stabilize it. That kind of recklessness was very human, and very unsettling to most aliens. But to Liara, it seemed to mean something more. She stayed closer than before, almost as if she didn't want to lose contact. She walked beside him during inspections, sat across from him in the dining hall, and even paused outside his quarters sometimes, as if listening to the faint echoes of his dreams. Ethan tried not to think too much about it. But of course he failed. She's probably outside my door right now, hearing me think about her hearing me think. Great. This is a thought loop. Does she hear that too? Somewhere beyond the wall, Liara smiled quietly. Alarms in the night. It was in the middle of the station's night cycle when the alarms began. Sirens blared across the decks and red lights pulsed through the corridors. Ethan jumped from his bunk, heart racing. He grabbed his jacket and rushed into the hallway, where dozens of workers were already moving. Panic buzzed in the air like static. Hostile fleet incoming, a voice shouted over the intercom. All non-combatants to secure zones. Defense units to stations. Ethan froze. A fleet here? Aurora's Edge was far from any war zone. Who would attack it? Then he saw Liara striding down the corridor toward him, calm despite the chaos. Ethan, she said, her voice firm, with me. He followed her quickly, pushing through the rushing crowd. Who's attacking us? The Krail Dominion, she answered. Telepathic warlords. They conquer by breaking minds. They have long despised humans for being difficult to control. Tonight they have come to test us. Ethan's chest tightened. So this is about me. About humans, Liara glanced sideways. Not only you, but yes, you are part of it. Trapped sector explosions rattled the walls as the first enemy strikes hit the station's shields. Ethan and Liara reached the engineering decks, but a blast rocked the corridor, sealing the doors with fire and debris. Smoke hissed from ruptured pipes. We cannot reach the command deck, Liara said quickly. We are trapped here. Ethan coughed, covering his mouth. Then we help from here. Power systems, shields, whatever we can touch, she nodded. Yes, but we must move carefully. The Krail will send their telepaths. They will try to break us from within. Her words chilled him. It wasn't just a battle of weapons, it was a battle of minds. Silent communication. They slipped into a maintenance bay. The lights flickered and the air was thick with heat. Ethan rushed to a console, checking shield readouts. Sector 7 shields are failing, he muttered. If they break through there, we'll lose half the station. I will contact command, Liara said. Her eyes glowed faintly as she closed them, sending her thoughts outward. But Ethan saw her flinch. She staggered, gripping the console. Liara, he caught her arm. The Krail are here, she whispered. They are pushing into my mind. Trying to find a path to yours, Ethan's stomach dropped. They can see me through you? Yes, she breathed. But stay calm. Think clearly. I will shield you. He clenched his fists, panic rising. Think clearly.
My brain doesn't do clearly.
Her lips curved even in pain. Then let it be messy. I will use that shared strength. The air trembled. Ethan couldn't see the enemy, but he felt something. A pressure like invisible claws scraping at the edges of his thoughts. His head ached. They're trying to get in, he realized. They're going to twist me. No, Liara's voice rang inside him. Not spoken but felt. I am here. Focus on me. Her presence spread through his mind, cool and steady. Ethan gasped. Their connection deepened beyond surface thoughts. Suddenly he felt her emotions, calm discipline, sharp focus, and underneath it a flicker of fear. And she felt him. His racing heart, his stubborn will, his refusal to give in. I'm not letting anyone control me, Ethan thought fiercely. Not now, not ever. She drew strength from that. Yes, hold on to that. The pressure of the Krail mines grew, stabbing like needles. But Ethan's thoughts twisted, darted, and scattered. His imagination, wild, unshielded, unpredictable, made no straight path for the invaders. It confused them, tangled them. Liara used that chaos like a weapon, weaving it into her defenses. The invaders struck harder, but their claws slid off the strange, stormy shape of a human mind. Together they pushed back. Fighting in the dark, another explosion shook the bay. Panels burst, showering sparks. The lights went out, leaving only the pulsing glow of emergency strips. Ethan grabbed a handheld lamp, shining it over the consoles. Shields down to 40%. If we don't stabilize, we're done. I will hold the Krail, Liara said, her eyes still glowing. You must repair. Right. Ethan swallowed hard and dove into the wiring. He pulled open panels, sparks biting his hands. His thoughts raced as he worked. Okay. Reroute main conduits, bypass damage regulators, cross-connect power from secondary grid. If this blows, we're fried. Liara steadied him through the link. You will not fail. You sound very sure, he muttered, sweat dripping. I feel your determination. It feeds me, he smirked grimly. Well, I'm glad my stubborn brain is good for something. Minutes dragged. The enemy's mental pressure didn't let up, but Ethan's reckless, wandering thoughts about wires turning into snakes, about shields glowing like giant soap bubbles, about whether aliens invented duct tape, kept the Krail off balance. At last, he slammed the final relay into place. The hum of power rose, steady and strong, shields stabilizing. He shouted. Liara opened her eyes. The glow dimmed and she let out a long breath. We held them back. For now. The aftermath, they sank against the wall, exhausted. The station still shook with distant impacts. But the worst had passed. Reinforcements were arriving. Ethan heard the announcement over the intercom. The Krail fleet was retreating. He leaned back, heart pounding. We actually did it. We stopped them. Liara turned to him. Her expression was unreadable at first, but her eyes softened. No, we did it together. Your mind is unlike anything I have touched. In its chaos, I found strength. Ethan chuckled weakly. Messy thoughts saved the day. Who knew? I knew, she said quietly. From the moment I first touched your mind, I knew there was something different. Her gaze lingered, steady and unflinching. For the first time, Ethan felt no embarrassment that she could read him. Instead, he felt something else, trust, and maybe something more. A bond forged hours later, when the station returned to uneasy calm, Ethan lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. But this time, he wasn't alone in his head. Liara's presence still brushed softly against his thoughts. Not invasive, not heavy, just there like a quiet flame in the dark. You're still here, he thought. Yes, came her gentle reply. Are you ever going to leave my head? Do you want me to? He paused. Then he sighed with a faint smile. No, not really. And for the first time, he didn't mind that his thoughts weren't private. Because someone else finally understood them. Someone who desired them. The Krail fleet had retreated, but Aurora's edge was far from calm. Damage crews filled the corridors, dragging equipment, patching holes and repairing ruptured conduits. The smell of burnt metal clung to the air. Every deck hummed with tension. Ethan had not slept much since the attack. His hands were raw from hours of work, and his eyes ached from the bright glow of consoles. But his mind refused to rest. The memory of that moment, their shared defense against the Krail telepaths, still burned inside him. It was more than survival. It was a bond, and Liara had not left his thoughts since. Uneasy questions. They sat together in a quiet section of the observation deck. The stars stretched wide outside the glass, silent and eternal. For once, the station felt still. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So, what happened back there? With the Krail, that wasn't normal, was it? Liara's violet eyes glowed faintly in the starlight. No, it was not. Normally, when a telepath invades, the victim breaks. Their mind shatters or bends to the invader's will. But yours. She tilted her head, studying him. Your mind resisted. It scattered, shifted, and slipped away from their grasp. I have never seen this before. Ethan gave a short laugh. So I'm just too stubborn for them to control? Not stubborn, she said softly. Unpredictable, chaotic, it's like trying to grasp smoke. The tighter they hold, the less they keep. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. That doesn't sound very heroic, more like, my brain is just a mess, her gaze deepened. It is more than that. Your imagination creates infinite paths. No one, not even me, can fully predict where it will turn. That makes you dangerous to the Krail and valuable. Her last word carried weight. Ethan frowned. Valuable to who? To everyone, Liara answered. If humanity cannot be controlled by telepaths, then you are the one species who can fight them without fear of domination. The words hit Ethan hard. He stared out the window. Humanity was still young in the stars, barely trusted by older species. And yet, now they might hold something others couldn't. Freedom of mind. A confession silence stretched for a while. Ethan tried not to think too loudly, but of course it was impossible. So we're valuable now. Great, that probably means trouble. Maybe they'll use us. Maybe they'll fear us. Maybe they'll... Ethan. Liara's voice broke into his thoughts, steady but gentle. He looked at her. There is something else, she said. When I connected to you, I felt more than resistance. I felt your strength flowing into me. It was not just defense, it was nourishment, Ethan blinked. Nourishment? Like food? Yes, my kind feeds on thoughts, emotions, and clarity. But your thoughts... She hesitated, searching for the right word. They are raw, unfiltered, alive. They fill spaces I did not know were empty. Ethan swallowed. So you're saying, you need me? Her violet eyes locked on his. Yes, I desire your thoughts. Not as a weapon. Not as food. As connection. I cannot explain it fully, but when I touch your mind, I feel whole. Ethan's chest tightened. He looked down quickly, embarrassed. She really means it. She wants me around because of my mind. My messy, embarrassing, dirty mind. She's serious, her lips curved faintly. Yes, I'm serious, he groaned. You heard that too? I hear everything, she whispered. Distrust on the station. The next day, Ethan learned how dangerous this revelation could be. He was summoned to a council chamber. Representatives from several species stood around a glowing table, their faces grim. Liara was at his side, her posture calm but watchful. A crystalline delegate spoke first, their voice like grinding glass. The human resisted the Krail assault. We have confirmed this through witnesses, a reptilian ambassador hissed. If that is true, then humans may be immune to telepathic domination. That makes them unpredictable, dangerous, or valuable allies, said a smaller insectoid diplomat, their mandibles clacking. The chamber buzzed with argument. Some saw humanity as hope against the Krail. Others saw them as a threat to galactic order. Finally, the station commander raised a hand. Enough, we will study this further. But until then, human minds must be monitored. We cannot allow chaos to spread unchecked, Ethan bristled. Monitored? Like we're lab rats? Liara's hand brushed his arm under the table. Through the link, her voice whispered in his mind. Do not speak yet. They are afraid. We must move carefully. He clenched his jaw but nodded. Private rebellion later in a quiet corridor, Ethan exploded. Monitored? Like I'm some experiment? That's insane. They fear what they cannot control, Liara said calmly. It is their nature. Fear makes them cautious. But fear also makes them cruel. Ethan paced. So what? I'm supposed to sit quietly while they poke around in my head? No thanks, you will not, Liara said firmly. I will not allow it. He stopped, staring at her. You'd protect me? Even against your own people? Her eyes glowed faintly. Yes, I have chosen. You are mine to guard. The word struck him harder than any explosion. His heart stumbled in his chest. She really means it. She's staking her place with me. Against everyone else. Liara's lips curved. Yes, again, I mean it. A dangerous gift that night, Liara came to Ethan's quarters. She stepped inside silently, her presence filling the room like cool air. I must show you something, she said. Ethan sat up on his bunk. What is it? She sat across from him, her posture still and graceful. The Krail are not the only telepaths who may come for you. If others learn of your mind's resistance, they will try to capture you. I cannot shield you always, so I will teach you to shield yourself. Ethan blinked. Me, shield my own mind? I thought humans couldn't do that. You cannot in the way others can, but you do not need to. Your chaos is already a shield. You must learn to control the storm to turn it where you wish. He frowned. Sounds like you want me to weaponize my messy thoughts. Her eyes glowed softly. Yes, exactly. For hours she guided him. She taught him to focus on images, to let his imagination build walls of shifting pictures. Storm clouds, twisting mazes, endless mirrors. Each time she pushed against his thoughts, he threw up something unexpected. A castle of cards, a forest of moving trees, a river of stars. She laughed quietly at his strange defenses. No other mind fights like this, you are. Extraordinary. Ethan grinned tiredly. Extraordinary mess, maybe. Extraordinary human, she corrected. The unbreakable moment days passed, and Ethan grew better at shaping his storm. Each lesson with Liara deepened their bond. He began to sense her presence even without focus. The way her thoughts brushed gently against his. The way her emotions whispered just beneath her calm surface. One night, as they practiced, she pressed harder than ever. Her mind surged like a tide, testing his defenses. Ethan's head throbbed. He imagined walls of fire, then oceans, then laughing voices that tangled together. She struck again, but his chaos bent and shifted, always slipping from her grasp. Finally, she stopped, her chest rising and falling with effort. Enough, you are ready. No one will break you now. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. Ready, huh? I don't feel ready, her gaze softened. You do not see yourself as I do. But believe me, Ethan, you are stronger than you know. The silence between them deepened, heavy with something unspoken. Ethan's thoughts whispered what he could not say aloud. I trust you. More than anyone. Maybe more than I should. Her lips curved faintly. And I trust you. More than I ever thought I could. Whispers of changeword of the Krail attack spread fast. Across the galaxy, whispers grew. Humans could not be controlled. Some species saw hope, others saw danger. On Aurora's edge, Ethan felt the stares more than ever. Some aliens nodded respectfully. Others avoided him as if he were a walking bomb. Through it all, Liara stayed at his side, calm, unmoving, steady as a shadow, and Ethan realized something he had not before. She was no longer just reading his thoughts. She was choosing them, desiring them, protecting them, and he, despite all his doubts, wanted her there always. The Aurora's edge hung in orbit above a silent, broken moon. Repairs continued day and night, but whispers of something greater traveled through the halls. News had reached them. The Krail were coming back. Not with a raiding fleet this time, but with a war armada. For Ethan, the days before their arrival felt like walking on thin glass. Everyone looked at him differently now. Some with respect, some with fear, some with envy. Humanity had become a symbol, uncontrollable minds, unbroken in the face of telepaths. He didn't ask for it. He never wanted to be anyone's symbol. But he couldn't escape it, and he knew one thing. If the Krail came again, they would not just attack the station. They would come for him. The storm approaches. Ethan sat in the strategy chamber with Liara at his side. Holographic maps of space flickered above the table, showing dozens of Krail ships advancing through the outer systems. The station commander's face was grim. They know what happened here. They will want the human. Alive if possible. If they cannot take him, they will destroy him. Murmurs filled the room. Some delegates pushed for hiding Ethan, locking him away. Others demanded he be handed over to the Krail to avoid war. Ethan slammed his hand against the table. No, I'm not hiding. I'm not being handed over. If they want me, they'll have to go through all of us. The words surprised even him. But they came from somewhere deep, solid, unshaken. Liara placed her hand lightly over his. Her voice was calm but strong. He speaks truth. The Krail will not stop with one human. If they break him, they will come for all. This is not just his fight, it is ours. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then slowly, one by one, the delegates nodded. The decision was made. They would fight. Preparing for war, the station turned into a fortress. Ships from nearby sectors answered the call for aid. Engineers worked around the clock, bolting new defenses into place. Weapons were tested, shields reinforced. Ethan trained harder with Liara than ever before. Each night they pushed his mind to its limits. She struck with illusions, pressure, waves of psychic energy. He answered with storms of imagination. Mazes, shadows, rivers, thunder. Sometimes he failed. Sometimes he collapsed, gasping for air, his body trembling. But each time he rose again. "You are not a weapon," Liara told him one night, her hand resting against his chest. "You are a storm. And storms cannot be caged." Her words sank into him deeper than any lesson. He was not just resisting. He was becoming something new, something the Krail could not control. The invasion. The day came. Alarms screamed as the Krail fleet emerged from hyperspace. Dark, jagged ships spreading across the void like vultures. The station shuddered as the first waves of energy fire struck its shields. Fighters poured into space, clashing in swarms of light. Inside, corridors shook with explosions. Lights flickered. Metal screamed. Ethan stood in the command deck, heart pounding. Liara was beside him, her violet eyes glowing brighter than ever. "They are here," she whispered, and then he felt it, a cold touch at the edge of his mind. The Krail had reached for him. The battle of minds, the psychic attack came like a storm. Voices clawed into his head, whispering, demanding, promising power if he surrendered. Images of pain, fire, broken worlds filled his vision. Ethan staggered, gripping the edge of the console. Liara's voice cut through the storm. "Focus, remember what I taught you." He clenched his teeth and summoned the storm. Images poured out of him, laughing crowds, shifting mirrors, twisting mazes. The Krail tried to seize one thought, but it slipped, shattered, scattered into 1,000 others. They pushed harder. Pain lanced through his skull. But every time they pressed, he gave them chaos. Every time they demanded control, he gave them freedom. Through it all, Liara was there, her mind woven with his. He felt her strength, her clarity, her calm guiding hand. Together they stood against the storm. "You cannot break me," Ethan growled into the void. "And you will never own me." The Krail roared inside his head, but for the first time he pushed back. Turning the tide on the battlefield outside, ships exploded in fire. The station shook as enemy boarding parties forced their way inside. But something was changing. The Krail telepaths faltered. Their control over lesser soldiers slipped. Their formations broke, because Ethan was fighting them. Not with weapons, but with his mind. Liara's voice filled his thoughts. "Push them further. Show them what it means to face a human," and Ethan did. He unleashed everything, his messy, unfiltered, ridiculous thoughts. Childhood memories, half-formed jokes, dreams of impossible machines. Silly fears, hope, love, chaos, the Krail screamed. Their unity shattered. Their telepathic web collapsed under the weight of his storm. The Allied fleet seized the moment. They pressed forward, tearing through broken formations. Explosions lit the void like falling stars. The choice on the command deck. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping. The pressure lifted, the voices gone. But he knew the Krail were not defeated forever. This was only a battle, not the war. Liara knelt beside him, steadying him with her touch. Her eyes glowed softly. "You did it. You showed them what they feared most, that you cannot be chained." Ethan managed a weak smile. "Couldn't have done it without you." "You could have," she said. "But I would not let you fight alone." He looked at her then, really looked. She had stood with him against her own people's doubts, against the Krail, against the universe itself. She had chosen him again and again, and his thoughts whispered the truth he could no longer deny. "I don't want to face this without you. I want you with me. Always." Her lips curved and she whispered aloud, "Always." A new beginning. When the battle ended, Aurora's edge floated scarred but unbroken. Fires smoldered, debris drifted, but the fleet had survived. The Krail had been driven back, for now. Ethan walked the damaged corridors with Liara at his side. Everywhere they went, beings of different species looked at him with new eyes. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others whispered. But none dismissed him now. Humanity had earned its place. Not through technology, not through strength of arms, But through the unbroken storm of a human mind, Ethan paused at a viewport gazing at the stars. Liara stood beside him, silent and steady. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "Now," she said, "the galaxy changes. The Krail know they cannot control you. Others will fear that. Some will seek to use it. But no matter what comes, you will not be alone." Ethan nodded slowly. "Because of you." Her hand brushed against his, her voice soft. "Because of us." For the first time, Ethan did not feel like a lone human lost in the stars. He felt like part of something greater, a bond no enemy could break, and deep inside he knew. Whatever the future held, humanity's story was only beginning.